Alright, this is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. We got Dr. Doug Graham. He's been into the raw foods movement for a long time now, and I respect and admire this man. He's taught me a lot. So today I'm here, but also you guys are here to learn more from his teachings about the 80-10-10 diet that he wrote the book on. So Doug, today's question is very simple. How important are leafy greens on the 80-10-10 diet? I mean, I know a lot of people are trying to be fruitarian, and maybe some people eat 30 bananas a day and maybe no greens a day. Is that really healthy? And I mean, is that really what 80-10-10 is all about? And what's your opinion on that?
Wow, that's a really good question. Really good question. I stress the consumption of greens. I stress the consumption of vegetables. I like fruit as much as anybody could ever like fruit. And I know there's times when I'm not really in the mood for vegetables, and then I eat fruit. But there's times when I'm really in the mood for vegetables. I'm good friends with vegetables. I'll sometimes eat vegetables for breakfast. I'll sometimes just have vegetables either at the start, the middle, or the end of my lunch, balancing it out with fruit, or sometimes even just have vegetables for lunch. I know how much fruit I need. I've had enough practice there to make sure that I never, ever short myself on fruit. But I also never ever short myself on vegetables. Does that mean you have to eat vegetables every single day? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It means that in the course of the year, in the course of the decade, you need to be eating your vegetables. I've never seen anybody succeed for 10 or 15 years on just fruit, only fruit. I've seen people go a month, I've seen people go a year. I've met a couple of people who went a few years on only fruit. I mean, literally, fruit like you think of as fruit, not like a cucumber here and there and a tomato here and there and calling it fruit, but I mean just fruit. I've seen people succeed for short terms of months or even a year or two. Usually these are people who aren't super physically active, don't sweat much, don't exert hard, aren't asking for maximal muscle contractions, but they can coast through and be quite good and be very clear-minded and whatnot and in pretty good health. But I've never seen anybody do that for a long time. By the time they're saying, oh yes, well I've been fruitarian for 5 years, and I go, could you describe it? And they go, well, we eat tomatoes and we eat cucumbers and we eat leafy greens, and those are all fruity stuff, you know, or we eat almonds because they count as drupes and therefore they're fruit, and we certainly eat the avocados and the durian and the jack and the champadak and the aki and the other fatty fruits, and go, well, you know, you're really stretching your fruit definition pretty far, which I don't really care. I don't want to get into the naming of it all. It's not about the naming of it all. It's about staying healthy. So the question, how much fruit? I usually find if people don't eat enough vegetables, that they fail. They start craving salty foods. They start losing muscular strength, they start losing mental focus, their teeth rot, they bump into various mineral problems or mineral-related problems. Why? It's not that you can't get minerals out of fruit. You can get a ton of minerals out of fruit, but the mineral-to-sugar ratio in vegetables is extremely favorable for minerals, and the amount of minerals in a small amount of vegetables is extremely favorable for minerals compared to that of fruit. And if you need some way to measure it, there's different ways to measure it. I'd say about half of the volume of the food I eat comes from vegetables. I'd say typically when I measure, that's about 4 or 5% of my total calories. But I've seen people do fine on 2% of their total calories from vegetables, especially from leafy vegetables. But if you eat none, I've seen people eat nothing for 60 days. That doesn't prove that they can live on nothing. I've seen people eat nothing but watermelon for 18 months. But they couldn't sustain it, and by the time 9 months had gone by, they were already losing their memory. By the time 18 months had gone by, he just about lost his mind, had almost no muscular strength left at all, and only by introducing vegetables did we bring the man back to health. So I'm a big fan of vegetables. I think that the The young, tender, leafy greens are some of the best you can possibly eat. I'm a big fan of the fruity vegetables, the cucumbers and tomatoes and the okras and peppers and even the zucchinis and the other vegetable fruits, the vegetables with seeds inside, such as okra. I like all of those, but I really focus in on leafy vegetables, tender leafy vegetables. I make a big deal about eating those. To me, they're like candy. I know fruit is like candy too, but for me, vegetables are like eating candy, especially when it's homegrown stuff. The homegrown vegetables, I just take 10, 12, 15, 18, 20 leaves of my homegrown lettuce, and I just roll it up into something that looks like a giant. When I'm rolling it, it feels kind of like a Havana cigar. By the time I'm all done, it looks sort of like a Mexican burrito or something, and I've got this big thing. I just eat it down, and I don't know what it is, why that's so tasty, but to me, it's just candy.
Wow, wow. So Doug, being into athletic performance, how can somebody's athletic performance suffer by not eating leafy greens?
Well, this is the deal. Without sufficient minerals, especially the sodium that we get from dark green leafy vegetables, you can't provide maximal muscle contractions. There's no way. Muscular strength depends upon sufficient sodium. And what we'll find is, on fruit you have a lot of energy and you can go, but if you want to be strong, which is certainly a part of any athletic endeavor, if you want to have strong muscular contractions, there's got to be sufficient amount of sodium for starters. You got to have the potassium for inside the cell, but you got to have the sodium for the outside. And especially when we're on a diet where we're not eating any salt whatsoever, you still have to provide some, and it's going to come from vegetables. It's really, fruit's a great source of potassium, but vegetables are a great source of sodium, and this allows for muscular strength, including heart muscles, including peristaltic muscles, including those Kegels, pelvic floor muscles that you got to pay attention to, or you're going to wet yourself and embarrass yourself in other ways. Including the muscles for swallowing, all the muscles, not just your voluntary big frame muscles, but everything else that happens as far as muscular contraction in your body. If the contractions aren't as strong as they're supposed to be, then you're just barely hanging on by the skin of your teeth. That's no way to thrive.
Wow, so it sounds like part of the fruit-based diet is actually a vegetable-based diet to get, the synergistic effects. Somebody could eat all fruit and they could go sodium deficient, right, Doug?
No question. A wide variety of minerals, but especially sodium. Our body's pretty good at sparing sodium, but when you sweat, you lose a little sodium. You lose a little sodium in urine. You lose a little sodium here and there. If you're not taking enough in, eventually you're gonna, you can't overspend every day and expect not to run out of whatever you're overspending. So I find that if you can't contract your muscles, you start feeling weak. It becomes a continual cycle. We'll see a lot of people who say, oh, well, the answer must be eat more fruit, and that is not the answer. It's like drinking seawater when you're out to sea and you're drowning, so you drink some seawater and it makes you thirstier, so you drink more seawater. This is not the answer. In the case, eat more fruit is not usually the answer to this problem. You've got to eat your vegetables. Besides, vegetables just make fruit taste better.
All right, Doug, so let's talk about what are leafy vegetables for those of you guys that may not know. And, I know a lot of people may just eat romaine lettuce, romaine hearts, like each and every day. Oh, I'm eating my leafy green vegetables. I'm eating my romaine hearts. If somebody ate romaine hearts for like one head or two heads a day for a year, Doug, would that be, good, or would it be bad, or should we really do something a little bit different?
Well, I don't know if I would call it good or bad, the judgment call there. Would it be sufficient? Probably. Probably would be sufficient. But our bodies really thrive on variety. We do well with variety. And most folks, we fall into patterns and sometimes resist the variety. I remember one time, it had to be 20 years ago or more, but I remember one time I'd been eating fruit for quite a few days. And then I decided to try some lettuce. and I kind of decided to try it, but I really wasn't too keen on the idea because I'd just been so happy with my fruit, and it was the height of summer, and it was mango season, and just things were good that way. But I said, oh, I haven't had vegetables in a long time. It seems like it's been weeks and weeks since I've had vegetables, and I tasted vegetables, and it was like, that's what's been missing. Wow, this is the best thing ever. But in my own garden, I usually grow 6 or 8 different kinds of lettuce. I grow a couple of dozen. I grow a couple different kinds, dozen different kinds of mint. I grow a ton of herbs, any herb that I can grow.
And those are all leafy greens, right?
They're all leafy greens. They all count as leafy greens. I love dill. I really enjoy cilantro. I get a tickle out of basil, and there's so many of those that I really enjoy, and they're just delicate, tender, mild leafy greens. But there's dozens and dozens of kinds of lettuces to grow, and all those oriental vegetables that are just spectacular, and each has a place, each has a recipe that just, it's just begging you to use that particular leaf in that particular recipe, because then it works really well. And I recommend people exchange throughout the year and be willing and open to try the different lettuces and try the different greens and the young tender greens and the oriental greens and see which ones. And you might find a few that are your favorites. Most people have a favorite lettuce, but it doesn't mean I'm going to eat that lettuce every single day. I'm going to eat oak leaf lettuce lots of times in the summer because I can grow oak leaf in the summer with no slugs.
Wow, that's amazing.
They just don't go for the oak leaf lettuce, and then I could grow like some little head lettuce that just, all it is slugs. It's like, it's too much trouble to clean it. It's too much trouble to clean it. And so I'll grow that at a different time of year when slugs aren't such an issue, maybe early spring or late autumn when they've already gone to bed, and just grow different kinds in different ways. I'm really fond of cause lettuce. I find the cause lettuce is just fantastic. But I grow tons and tons of different kinds, and it's well worth, it's even celery. I mean, there's different kinds of celery, and it's worth tasting the different varieties to see which ones you like and using them. Same with cucumbers. I mean, there's those Persian cucumbers and the British cucumbers and all kinds of Kirby's, and I like to mix it up, but I'm not going to tell you have to be methodical about mixing up your greens or exchanging or going from one to the next. You could probably do a year on romaine and it would be no big deal, but it'd be kind of boring. And when you taste something else and it just lights up your taste buds, and you go, I need to be eating a little more of that.
Wow. Well, thank you, Doug. This was definitely very valuable. What I want to always encourage you guys is to start growing your own food. What I've learned is, the food that you grow yourself has more nutrition in it because it's picked fresh and goes right into your mouth instead of into refrigerated trucks, into warehouses, and into your store. Plus, it's going to be less expensive. Plus, you could grow all kinds of varieties, especially some of the varieties that Doug talked about.
And it tastes better.
Yeah, and it tastes better. It's just a win-win-win for everybody. So if you want to learn how to grow your own food, you want to check out my other YouTube channel, Growing Your Greens. And if you want to learn more about Doug's 80-10-10 diet, because it is done a specific way, and you can't learn this through 5-minute YouTube videos. You got to really buy the book. So Doug, where can somebody get your book?
They can go to foodandsport.com, my own website. The word food, the letter N, and the word sport. It's 10 letters. You got it right. Foodandsport.com. They can go to Amazon and buy the book if they really want to. You can go to the library and get it for free. Any library in the U.S. that doesn't carry 80-10-10, just walk in and request it. It's already on their system that they can request that book and get a free copy to give away to people in the library. And I would love you to order it from the library, in fact. And I'd like to see that book in every library in the United States.
Wow. Well, once again, read the book. Know what it's really about. There's a lot of people teaching this stuff that may not be entirely what Doug would teach. And I mean, Doug's learned this over many, many, many decades of trial and error, doing it right. And then for years, he didn't even have a book. Now he finally came out with it, and it's definitely a masterpiece. I highly encourage you guys to pick it up. So hopefully you guys, after watching this episode, you've realized that leafy greens are really important. They're definitely a staple of my raw diet, and I believe should also be a large part of yours. Once again, my name is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time, and remember, Keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables, including your leafy greens. Doug, what's the difference between an 80-10-10 diet and the 30 bad diet, or one of the diets that's being promoted as something similar to 80-10-10?
It's a great question.